And I'd like to welcome you all to our Thursday 1:30 p.m. session with Tori Goldhammer and our special guest, Liz Gregg, and we'll be talking about mental health and wellness today. I'm going to read our disclaimer before we get started. The WildTech DC Senior iPad program, its owners and presenters offer technical assistance, virtual health well-being information designed for educational purposes only. You should not rely on the information in applications or topics made by WildTech, including but not limited to mobile device applications and any social media pages maintained by WildTech, its owners, or presenters as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or legal advice. Thank you so much for letting me read the disclaimer. Again, if you cannot see us, hear us, or see the screen, please let us know in the chat. We'd really appreciate that. As always, I recommend that you have some kind of notes next to you so you can record some information and review it for later. And as always, please make sure your TVs and cell phones are silenced to give others, and most importantly, yourselves, the most immersive experience. Other than that, again, thank you to Liz and Tori for coming on. The floor is yours. If you could introduce yourself and your topic today, we would appreciate it. And once again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Alex. I'll go ahead and start, Liz, if that's okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So hi, everybody. It's good to see you again. I'm Tori, as most of you know, and I am so excited to have Liz here today because I think that we have occasionally discussed some issues with regards to anxiety and sadness and loneliness and things like that. We've talked about how it may or may not come up when you visit your primary care provider and what kind of strategies can you use to sort of deal with these feelings that you're having. And so I asked my very good friend Liz to join because this is something that she specializes in. And so we're so lucky to have her here today. We normally would start with the seated exercises, but because I want to maximize Liz's time, I'm just going to put a link to today's exercise in the chat so you guys can do it later. One thing I would like to say today, while I think it's very appropriate for us to do seated exercises by Zoom the way we've been doing them, there was I just read this study that came out that there was an assisted living facility where they had primarily done seated exercises, and they were still having a lot of reported falls in the facility. And so they changed it up and they started doing more standing exercises with support. So there was, a trainer there, a physical therapist, and actual physical supports. But they decreased the number of falls by over 300%, which is hugely significant. So although walking is very good for us, and although the seated exercises are great for stretching, flexibility, even strengthening, working on our balance is still really, really important. So I really recommend and encourage you to follow up with your doctors to either get a prescription for physical therapy so you can get some real challenges to your balance and really try to work on that, or go to the wellness centers if they're doing Tai Chi classes, if they're doing the Otego classes, which somebody had mentioned, and really try to do some standing balance in a supportive environment, okay? And so that's what I want to do. I'm going to put the link for the video in here, but I'm going to pass it over to Liz so we have a full hour with Liz. And I should say, Liz, they're very comfortable talking to everybody. So yes, it's as open as you want to make this dialogue, whatever works for you.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I kind of introduced myself. I'm Liz Gregg. I'm a social worker. I've worked with Tori, working with older populations, helping with issues related to mobility, but also identifying any mental health concerns that are going on and trying to create some simple interventions to help people live a better life and higher quality. I think that's pretty much the goal of the work that Tori and I do, is to improve quality of life. And that looks different for different people. But unfortunately, one of the things we do need to touch on is mental health issues that come up, especially as we're aging. And so, like I said, my snappy title, which is not terribly snappy, but it'll work, is depression is not a normal part of aging. And I'll discuss some of that today, and we'll absolutely have time for, question and answer and some talking. So I do want to go over some of the risk factors for mental health problems, and what you might observe when someone's struggling with mental health issues. Certainly some initial ideas about how to help, how to address barriers to getting the kind of help that people need for there are barriers to treatment and barriers to health. And then finally, prevention. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the reasons why some people, particularly older adults, are at risk for mental health factors. And again, emphasizing that mental health problems are not a normal part of aging. So they should be attended to, listened to, and given support to. So the risk factors we know obviously are shaped by both your physical environment and your social environment and your heredity. So you're a product of not only who you were when you were born, but growing up and all the factors that have come in since that time. So it's kind of a cumulative, like one thing adds on to another thing, where you have a life experience and then maybe you have a stressor and then you get through that and then you have something else going on. And then aging, which is a normal part of growing up, like being a teenager. But I think we can both recognize that there are specific stresses that come in with being a teenager and specific stresses that come with being elderly. So I'll let you kind of think on that. But generally speaking, we recognize there are specific stressors that happen. And one of them is just you've had a whole lifetime of exposure to adversity, right? And you may not be as resilient and bouncing back in your abilities as you once were. You're just kind of tired. It's a cumulative factor. And you might also have a sense of loss about what you can do personally. Okay, so maybe your hands shake now, and so you can't do the work that you used to do involving your hands. And so you have a functional decline in your abilities that can affect your mood, right? People who have always been very athletic or outgoing physically, and then they have, let's say they need a knee operation, so they become less mobile and they're experiencing more pain leading up to that surgery. That is another example of an adversity, right? That can come up that you weren't expecting. And so you lose some of your personal capacity as you get older, whether it's walking or hearing, some of your functional abilities, right? Like working or driving. And these adversities add up and can be challenging for people as they go through the process of adjusting their identity and behaviors to their age. So, and also we have to recognize that there are special factors for older adults. They are more likely to experience these adverse events. Think about bereavement and loss. It's much more likely to happen as you're a senior. And many people also find it very stressful. Losses increase as you get older. Also, you do have a drop and a stabilization in your income, which is different from before when you maybe felt like you had a little more pocket money or a little more flexibility to get cash, to be able to do and have the things that you want to do. You've made so many contributions to society, and yet ageism, right? We've talked about ageism, like the negative effect on older people of the way people view older people. Okay, that can affect your mental health. And we also very much know programs like this are crucial to mental health. We know social isolation and loneliness, which are very normal parts of anyone's life. During your life, you're going to feel some isolation and loneliness. The problem is when those become chronic or you don't know how to get out of it, right? Where you feel like I'm stuck in this bad situation. And social isolation and loneliness can really affect your physical health, which people find surprising. I can't remember the statistic, but if you can, feel free to unmute yourself. The one about loneliness, feeling lonely that has the impact on your health of, I think it's a pack a day of cigarettes. Maybe it's a pack a week. Tori, do you know that stat? It's fascinating, and I should have looked it up.
No, I don't remember it. I'll try
Yeah,
to
so loneliness and isolation are as dangerous to our seniors and ourselves as smoking cigarettes. So we know that it's really bad for our health. And then also we do have to contend with the fact that as people get older, they're more physically dependent. They may be isolated with that physical dependence, and unfortunately abuse can come in, right? And we know that there are different kinds of abuse. And that, of course, is going to affect mental health, physical, verbal, psychological abuse, financial abuse, feeling like you don't have what you need available to you. And then, of course, memory issues can be very hard on mental health, right? If you feel different from other people, maybe you feel frightened or anxious about what will become. And these factors like loneliness, isolation, fear of what's coming are going to fuel that decline in physical and emotional well-being. It's a bad cycle, okay? And then we also know that there are risk factors for adults who experience socialization, but also have other health concerns. I mean, how many people have, been diagnosed with heart disease, or you may have experienced anxiety or sadness. High blood pressure is really common. A weakened immune system can occur from any number of factors, or if you have any kind of cognitive decline and memory issues, that plus social isolation is a deadly mix. Heart disease, anxiety, sadness, high blood pressure, weakened immune system, and cognitive decline. Those things plus social isolation are really bad for our health. So, and the other thing that a lot of people in their older stages become a caregiver. It may be to a grandchild. It may be to a spouse or partner, a sibling. Those responsibilities of being a caretaker when you're already managing your own aging process can be really overwhelming and also lead to mental health issues. And finally, it wouldn't be fair not to mention that some people live in really dire conditions. They may have very poor physical health and they lack access. They lack money, transportation. Those kinds of folks who are living in poverty, don't have access, don't have financial access or other access to help, can be really, really hard for seniors, much more so than other folks. And so, you also may be living with a chronic disease, like maybe you've had a stroke and you're managing stroke care, or maybe you're managing cancer. These are also going to, of course, impact the way you feel about your life and how you feel about how you spend your time. What is quality of life? All these questions will come up. And as I mentioned before, neurological conditions, Parkinson's, dementia, these can come along with their own mental health issues, can create them, or also can be caused. Substance abuse problems can be caused by mental health factors. Neurological conditions can be worsened, can worsen mental health problems or create them. So I would love to have a little dialogue amongst the folks who do feel comfortable unmuting. I know some folks might have a TV going on in the background, so do be mindful if you've got noise in the background to manage that before unmuting. But I would love to hear people's personal observations, friends, family, or even themselves when they know that maybe some of their behaviors indicate a little bit of concern about mental health. You're not sure what's going on, but you're concerned. Does anybody have a sense of what a clue might be? Or maybe they've seen something, heard something in themselves or others, and you thought, I think that's a concern. I'm not sure if that's a mental health problem, but maybe it's a clue. Anybody have even just a guess?
Please raise your hand if you would like to share. Again, thank you so much, Liz. That was very interesting. Thank you for the statistics and everything. It was quite enlightening. Thank you.
I got plenty more. I just wanted to see if I get plenty more to talk about. I just wanted to see if anybody had like maybe a particular thing they'd noticed, like my friend was doing this and I was concerned, or when I started acting this way, I thought that's not right. I should probably get help. And if we've got Anne.
Yes,
hand.
thank you for I was about to ask if you could say the question again. So thank you. First up, we have Miss Gloria. What do you say?
Good afternoon, and thank you for this topic. Also, when we don't have the proper assistance in the home, it can bring about a lot of problems, and especially those of us who are sightless. Um, Sometimes we need someone around to read mail or to tell us what something says or that kind of thing. It can be
Mhm.
depressing
Absolutely.
because
That
you
is such a
don't have
good point.
anyone. And
Having, yeah.
uh, uh, when you've been visually impaired for a while, you need that special touch to in your family as well. The reason I said that was because there are a lot of my family I haven't seen because
Yeah.
I've been blind for a while.
Yes.
And sometimes that can have a bearing on your mental ability.
So I want to bring out three things that you brought up. This was really helpful. One is you brought up if you don't have enough care for yourself or your home, you're going to begin to neglect things, right? Maybe your home will look unsanitary, unclean. Maybe it would be very crowded with things. Things aren't put away
Right.
properly. Maybe there would be piles of dirty items that haven't been washed. So seeing those behaviors in yourself or other people could be a clue that someone's feeling overwhelmed. I'd love to hear from Anne.
Again, thank you so much, Miss Duckett. We really appreciate it. Next up is Anne. What do you say? Thanks so much for joining.
I agree with what Miss Duckett said, but my problem is a little bit more complicated. Seems like I have inherited my mother's status in the family. So everybody depends on me to have an answer to whatever is going on. I'm supposed to cure diseases and depression, and I've become a psychiatrist, but I'm concerned about my ex-daughter-in-law.
Okay. So you're, yeah.
She lost her son. My step grandson was killed last year on Minnesota Avenue. And they're finding out that the gun that was used has been used in 3 other murders. The little girl that was shot on 295, somebody else recently, and him. So they're thinking this gun is being passed around. And the police are telling her stuff, and sometimes they're getting to her before they're getting to my stepson.
So Miss Dennis, I'm definitely hearing a couple things I want to pull out from you. One is that you feel a lot of pressure and responsibility at a time in life when most people feel a lot of responsibility to care for themselves as they age. And you're being asked to do extensive care for other family members, psychological care, etc. And that can place a big burden on you and lead to feelings that might become overwhelming. And so we'd want to say, gee, Miss Dennis is providing so much support for her family, and her step grandson passed, and she's worried about her ex-daughter-in-law. Well, she's got a lot on her mind. And so for me, that would be a first clue. Let's make sure that Miss Dennis is getting the support she needs right now to maintain her own physical and emotional health. So thank you for bringing out those points.
Thank you for talking with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
God bless you, honey.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much, Anne. We really appreciate it. Next up is Miss Thompson. Thanks for joining, as always. What do you say?
Okay, I had a stroke and I don't walk anymore. And it's depressing. I've always taken care of myself and my kids.
Yes.
And one of my daughters don't talk to me.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
You have very, very heavy things on your heart. Saying those things out loud is the first step toward getting help. Saying, I'm feeling tearful. I'm feeling alone, isolated. Someone who I care about isn't willing to talk to me. and I'm already isolated from my own physical concerns. So you're pointing out some serious red flags for your own mental health: tearfulness, being cut off from a family member, having your own physical issues. Those are also ones that we'd be concerned about. And I think, Ms. Thompson, I would say that you probably do need to think about, and we'll be getting to this. Some of the things we're going to talk about are about sort of when do you know that you do need professional help, and what can you do for self-care in the meantime? Okay? You're going to stick with
Okay.
us on that? Okay.
Thank you.
I am going to move on though, since I don't see any other raised hands. Is that right?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
but thank you all so much for sharing. You all are
Yeah.
very strong, and thanks so
Yeah,
much. I know it helped out others as well.
that's right. Yeah. So I do want to just quickly go over things you might see that you're concerned about, okay? Or that you should be concerned about that might trigger you to ask more questions. So we've already named some of them, like changing eating habits, suddenly losing weight because you're just not remembering to eat, or you don't have the energy to eat, don't have appetite, missing meals. Okay. That's concerning, not only for physical issues, but also, is there something emotional happening that's making the person feel overwhelmed and not able to eat? Neglecting any personal hygiene, like if you are wearing dirty clothes, or you have someone who you see who has sort of stained clothes, maybe body odor, it's obvious they're not taking care of their teeth or mouth, maybe they have bad breath, maybe their nails are very long, dirty, maybe they have sores, from areas they haven't taken care of. Any of those obvious signs of physical neglect are ones that we would be concerned about. That person doesn't have enough help, and they're not able to do it themselves. That's a red flag. Another thing that you might see or experience is if you just notice that they're neglecting their home. They really have changed their level of cleanliness or sanitation. Like they don't seem to even notice that the mice are running on the floor, or that the refrigerator is not really running properly and the food is spoiled. Those would be signs, gee, something is going wrong here. And then we all kind of are aware of, unfortunately, because our modern life takes us to the streets and people have mental health challenges and aren't unhoused. And so we've seen these kinds of things, but we also know that they can happen. And even, people without a serious mental health problem, you can begin to be sort of unusually withdrawn, or unusually loud or angry, maybe even feeling aggressive or paranoid, feeling agitated, feeling disoriented. You have a friend who calls you day or night, seems to be very worried about the car going back and forth in front of their house. And obviously, there are serious safety concerns people do have in their homes, in their neighborhood. I'm talking about when you know to be true that there probably isn't a situation like they've got their beloved goddaughter who takes care of them every Saturday, does their nails and hair and whatnot. And suddenly they say, I think she's trying to poison me. I think she's putting poison into my pills. Wouldn't that make you a red flag? What are you talking about? That's your goddaughter. She comes every Saturday. Why in the world did you think she'd put poison in your pills? You would know this is strange. This just isn't like the person. They're not joking around. There's something wrong. So if that inappropriate behavior strikes you as odd, other things like changing their relationship patterns, maybe friends or neighbors are concerned nobody's coming and going anymore, or friends and neighbors notice too many people are coming and going anymore, or that Mrs. Smith has been in the back bedroom for years, unable to get out, and she has a little potty seat next to her, and then suddenly her grandson moves in, and all of a sudden there's people coming and going all the time, right? That would be a concern. Is it okay with you? Are you aware, even though you're in the bedroom, that this is happening? Are you comfortable when you're in the home with the individuals who are going in and out? So those would be like, I'm a little concerned about this situation. And of course, as Ms. Thompson pointed out so well, if you have any physical problems, especially if someone suddenly has any injuries or is, misusing drugs and alcohol, prescribed medications, suddenly very forgetful, those kinds of things, you'll want to definitely figure out what's happening with them. There may be physical things happening, but if they are getting run down, exhausted, neglecting themselves, they may have little marks of falling or whatnot. Anytime someone decreases or stops participating in activities that they've always loved, like if they always go to their card group at the community center on Wednesdays, they always have their, Thursday coffee. And then on Sunday, they always go to church, and they oftentimes go home with a church member for dinner, Sunday dinner. And then suddenly they're not doing that, right? What's going on? So something physical, emotional, something's happened that has changed their capacity to do these things. What is it? We'd want to know. And of course, we do see the kind of forgetfulness, like unopened mail, piling up newsletters, not filling prescriptions, not changing clothes, forgetting meals, missing appointments. Those are all indications that we have a problem. Person needs more support and help. It may be dementia, but we don't know. We just need to find out what's happening. Also, any strange financial issues like not paying bills, losing money. That's like a lot of folks who begin to show signs of dementia. They say, I had $200, I had it in my purse and it's gone. I think somebody stole it. Well, really what it may be, and we're going to investigate and we're going to check it out. But if that is not the case, it may be the person has hid it someplace and they don't remember. And those are also signs. Why would you be hiding money, away from yourself, other people? And then, of course, any unusual purchases, if they suddenly begin to do a lot of online shopping, but buying multiple subscriptions to magazines they don't read, giving charitably to places that are questionable, of course, any fraud or scams, entering lots of contests, spending money unwisely. Those are all, I'm just mentioning tons of things so you guys know, if you see something, say something. And doesn't have to be big. You can just say, why, Janet, you don't look yourself today. I noticed you haven't brushed your hair in the back, and you got kind of coffee and food stains. What's going on at home? And if you use a pleasant and gentle tone, and even say something like, I've been through some hard times where I didn't get to my laundry, but this isn't like you. That's one way of expressing caring. You're offering the opportunity for the person to say, I am overwhelmed, or I stopped doing laundry, or money's really tight and I just can't, pay my water bill. So I'm doing bird baths. I'm not going to actually, shower anymore, that kind of thing. So those are all signs that you can pay attention to. But obviously, there are very serious warning signs. Those are kind of triggers and clues, like, we're wondering. These are more serious signs. If you're absolutely seeing drug and alcohol problems, including marijuana, medical marijuana is definitely used by our senior population. And also our seniors who, unfortunately, for years were given pills to manage chronic pain. Those pills are not given out as easily. You may have inadvertently developed an addiction and find that it's so uncomfortable and you don't want to tell your doctor, maybe you're ashamed, and you begin to use street drugs. This is something that happens. People are so desperate with their pain, they're willing to use street drugs. And, obviously that's a very serious concern. So trouble having any positive emotions, problems with sleeping too much or too little, problems with concentration, always feeling on edge, worried, stressed out, angry, irritable, all those things. If you're hopeless feeling, if you have thoughts about death or suicide, or you are planning a suicide attempt, there are resources to help. And in fact, I would invite anyone, and I'll put my information in the chat, if you are self-identifying as having thoughts of suicide, or thoughts of death, or someone who is, I will put my phone number in the chat. You're welcome to call me in order to get a sense of a next step. I also know Tori could point you in a good direction for some mental health services. I think it's really important. The bottom line is just to tell somebody you're feeling so poorly. Just tell somebody, I just feel so sad. I don't feel like it's ever going to get better. I think people will be better off without me. or I feel guilty about how I'm broke and I have to rely on my children, or I miss my husband so much I don't want to live anymore. Those feelings are normal in terms of they are human feelings, but you do need help. Don't keep those feelings to yourself. Let people know you're struggling. It doesn't, well, we'll get to this, but we know that there are barriers to treatment, right? We know there are practical issues like cost and transportation and your own physical health. But really, one of the biggest barriers, because I believe that all of you have some form of uh, health insurance, and you also have access to mental health support services through your local Department of Aging. There's also support groups. There's all kinds of ways to get help. But one of the biggest things is stigma, right? People don't want to admit that they're having, difficulties with their mental health. And many older people view mental health problems as a sign of weakness. We just know that. It's generational. There wasn't the kind of emphasis on mental health or even the knowledge about mental health. People had to work hard and, get up and pull their bootstraps up and get their shoes on and get out the door. There isn't a lot of room for feeling depressed or anxious. And some people, when they retire, or even later, as maybe their activities become more limited, they have a harder and harder time with their mental health. So it can kind of sneak up on you. You may have always viewed it as a sign of weakness, but now that you're actually fearful of losing your independence, you're experiencing physical symptoms, you're experiencing social isolation, you really are feeling challenges. Well, reason why we're talking about this is there is stigma, and we're trying to reduce that. So the public stigma that we have about just the ideas about negative attitudes around mental health, right? And then we put our stigma on ourselves, like, okay, well, maybe I feel really badly about myself. I'm not as strong as I thought. I'm not as independent as I thought. So you put your own stigma. Like if I believed more in the word of Christ, I would feel better. It's my fault. I need to pray more. Those are all very common. Also, institutional stigma. We have barriers to mental health. Many Medicare programs don't cover any mental health services. We have all kinds of institutional problems, access for people of color to certain kinds of services, et cetera. And so just to give a few examples, which I know will really ring true for you guys, as examples of mental health stigma are some people view folks who are mentally ill as attention seeking or weak. You might have heard harmful language like that person's crazy, they're nuts, and judging or trivializing people, making jokes about mental health, like that person's schizo, right? That's the short and derogatory term for schizophrenic. You also have lots of misunderstandings in the public about some of our most serious mental health problems, like suicidality, like feeling suicidal, or schizophrenia. People have a lot of misunderstanding about it. And so they may say things that are untrue. We have friends who mean well. They say, just why don't you take a walk and get more sun? They don't realize that can feel even more isolating because it makes us feel like, what's wrong with me that a walk and getting more sun doesn't help. And when you're living with a mental health condition, as you can imagine, people talk down to themselves about their condition. They feel they're worthless. And so I'm naming all that so you can see how painful that would be if you're not doing well, if you're not feeling well, and then to feel like, well, people will just meet me with, oh, it's nothing, you'll feel better, it's just a phase. Of course you're depressed, you just retired. Depression and anxiety and mental health problems are not a normal part of what we call a regular human life. And y'all are regular humans. You're older, regular humans. You should not expect that depression should be a normal part of your life. And if you feel depressed, you should know it's okay to get support and help. And if the first person, like your physician, doesn't pay attention to it, go to the next person. Maybe the person you go to for physical therapy. Go to the next person, maybe your pastor. Maybe it will be adult child. Maybe it was someone who visits you in your home and say, I think I'm a little low lately. I'm having some concerns about myself. how do you think I could get some help? And talk to people. I also think it's really, if you guys are really, I know, drilling down and learning a lot about how to help our seniors stay healthy and have that good quality of life. And if you're serious about wanting to learn more about how to be helpful to folks with mental health problems, there is a very simple program called Mental Health First Aid. Okay. And mental health first aid specifically can be tailored to work with older adults. So you learn how to assist and support older adults for experiencing a mental health or substance abuse challenge, because this little certification is evidence-based and it's based on early intervention. Okay. So get in there early. Don't wait until the person is actually in the hospital and they took too many pills. Let's move back and identify things. So because older adults do generally have high rates of late onset mental health problems like anxiety and depression, and they have relatively low rates of identification, right? Y'all were raised to not complain. Y'all were raised like, it doesn't matter how I feel, I've got to just do this thing. And that is an incredible survival strategy, but it doesn't work for long-term wellness as a senior. So this program, Mental Health First Aid, can not only help you assess for risk of the person's ability to harm themselves or others, it gives you great tips in listening non-judgmentally, just listening to what the person has to say. It helps give reassurance and information, encourages you to encourage them to get appropriate professional help and other self-help. So that's a little thing I mentioned. Just if you're passionate about mental health and seniors, this is a certificate you can do that would make a big difference in your ability to just notice and respond and then connect the person with help. So we're gonna spend our last couple of minutes talking about how do we prevent these problems. There's so much on the web about it, but basically the first thing I tell folks is let's make the place you spend your most time, which is probably home, into a place that really supports you and the things you want to do. Okay. So if you have a whole room that's clogged up with sewing materials and knitting and some of the art you used to do, but you have terrible arthritis and it's really impossible for you to paint anymore, or use a sewing machine, let's think about how we can create a space out of that room that is more in line with what you like to do now. Maybe you like to listen to radio programs and you want a lounger and you want a nice radio setup there. Let's think about how to create your home in a way that supports the things that are important to you. Okay, let's clear off that side table for puzzling. Okay, let's make sure that the area around your bed is safe for you to get down onto and back up, but also has like the things at hand, right by your hand, that are going to make you feel comfortable and at home when you're in bed and in your bedroom. So, and I also encourage you, you all know that Tori Goldhammer is an occupational therapist. And so I strongly recommend utilizing the programs through the city or through private funding, if that's important, something you can do, to have an occupational therapist evaluate your home. Is your home as safe as it can be, so that when you're doing the things you love in your home, cooking, taking a bath, gardening in the back, and coming down those steps out back, when you identify areas that you could have made more safe and healthy, that will improve your quality of life. And then the other thing that we know is that social connection and meaningful activities are crucial. So, it means very little if we design an awesome program like this when nobody's able to show up. The fact that they help you with any technical problems you're having, you're going to see some people, this is the kind of intervention that really helps folks. I want to encourage folks to raise their hand. We'll take like 5 minutes. What kind of healthy things do you do on a daily basis or once a week that help you feel like you have a meaningful life? And it can be anything from, taking a walk around my block and seeing the little children on the other side and seeing how they grow up. Okay. It doesn't have to be like a thing. So raise your little hand icon. And I see there's 2 people. Do you want to call on them?
Thank you so much, Liz, for that information. I'm amazed at how you broke everything down and how you recognize a lot of the challenges that people in just in general face every day, and how realistic you were about the things that folks should do. So I really,
Yeah,
really
I
appreciate.
just wanted to, do you want to call on the people with their hands raised? I think you were doing that before, because I'd love to have some comments from people in the audience about things that they do that feel like a meaningful social activity that they believe is good for their quality of life. I'd love to hear the range of ideas.
Yep. Thank you so much. So we have 3 hands up so far. So first up again is Miss Duckett. Thank you for sharing. What do you say?
Hello. I have a question, but I also want to answer the one you just asked. I usually go to the Model Cities Senior Wellness Center,
Yep.
and we do arts and crafts there, which helps us to, express ourselves, when we're doing our arts and crafts. And the nutrition class is the other one that I enjoy.
Great.
But the question that I want to ask is, how can you recognize that you have the right person that you can go to talk to? Because sometimes you can go and talk, and sometimes it's okay in the beginning, but for some reason it turns out that that was not the right person to talk to.
This is a great question, and it deserves its own time. So I'm going to make sure that we get to that, because I love that question. But I want to bring out a couple of things you said, which is, you mentioned going to model cities. That's part of your routine. Routines actually help us feel better about our day. They help us keep some strategy or logic about our day, so it just doesn't unfold without too loosely. So you're mentioning a routine, which is great. I bet you see people there. You're doing activities like crafting that you enjoy. That's meaningful. You enjoy it. And the other thing you mentioned is you have a meal there. Eating good food and doing it with other people is a meaningful social activity, right? So if you have coffee with a neighbor, that for you might feel really meaningful. That might be a good activity for you. Okay, we've got other raised hands.
Thank you again, Miss Duckett. Next up is Miss Edge. I think again the question is, what do you like to do that makes you happy? Is that right?
Yeah. Meaning. What feels meaningful to you? What brings you meaning? Small or big?
Following up with Miss Duckett, I attend both Zoom and in-person exercise classes, and the community that's developed as a result of this shared experience. We go to lunch occasionally. We socialize. We keep up on what's going on with one another, not just the exercise, but we become a community. And I love that at both the Zoom class that I get up with younger folks to try to stay in touch, and then the regular in-person class, which is more my age group, retirees.
Beautiful. I'm gonna, just things I heard there was, making yourself, not making yourself, doing some exercise. I get to do some exercise. Look, I'm able to move. I'm able to stretch. I get to do this. 2, she sees the same people and is encouraged to do that social activity, that physical activity. It leads to social activity. She gets lunch. So doing that one commitment to exercise has meant she has other things that she really enjoys, and she can be flexible. Some days it's Zoom, sometimes it's in person. Okay, next comment.
Thank you again, Miss Deborah. Miss Wilda, what is meaningful for you?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for this time and this what you're talking about. I am a senior. I'm a part of a group in my church called Seasoned Saints, and I found that being a part of that ministry allows me to get out of my own head. So that was for the answer your question. But I am very interested in what you mentioned about getting the certification for the
mental
I didn't
health.
get,
Yeah.
yes. As I
Yeah.
said, because of the ministry that I'm in at my church, this will be very helpful.
I will send that to Tori and make sure it gets to you.
The
Yes,
link is in
please.
the chat. I put a link in the chat, Miss Wilda. Please check it out. It's
Yeah.
it's the NAMI in DC. I've presented on NAMI DC before, but they have the certification. So check out the link in the chat, Miss Wilda, and
you.
I
Yes,
think that will help you out.
And I
Thank you so
believe
much.
there's one that's tailored to older adults.
Yes, that's one I would be interested in.
Yeah, I think that would be most useful. The NAMI one I suspect is shipped a little bit differently, but but you can go online and there are options for like different populations. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yes, because I do come from a generation where, they tell us, just forget about it. You'll be okay, especially in the church. Oh, praise the Lord, you're fine. You're fine.
That's
But
right.
nowadays we're becoming aware of our spiritual health is just as important as our physical health.
Absolutely.
So this is an excellent a topic for seniors. I'm in rehab right now. I had spine surgery on the 30th of July.
Okay.
And this program, just coming on this program every day has really been a blessing. It's taking me out of being depressed. I'm a strong woman, a well-educated woman. I'm used to taking care of myself all the time. Now all of a sudden I got to ask for help. Can't do this, can't do that. It can be very trying. I don't know what the word is. So really? I find myself sometimes being, I don't know if it's having anxiety.
Yeah.
Or I'm not depressed, but I go from 0 to 20 in a second flat. And that's not me. I know it's not me. I just want to cry about everything all of a sudden. So I think that might be a trigger. I mean, a sign.
Yeah,
sort of what you're talking about.
I think you're right. I think if you're finding yourself crying and really not sure where that's coming from, or it's more than usual.
It's not worthy. I mean, they're just asking me something, telling me something. It's not worth me busting and crying about it. And that's not my personality.
Right. And so you're recognizing I'm crying about things that I don't normally cry about, that really are not worthy to cry about. So now I know I'm going through something stressful.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up. I think that's really important. Did we have one more person? Let's do that before I just pick things up. And I do want to spend time on what to do if the help you're getting isn't the help you need. Okay.
Thank you again, Ms. Wood. Yes, we have 5 hands. So thank you.
Okay,
all
let's count the hands on this topic because we're going to finish up, and I want to make sure that we get to that last topic.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
No. I mean, we can take the other people of their hands raised.
Okay. Sorry about that. So yes,
okay.
again, thank you for the participation. Next up is Ms. Wilmotine. Really quick, what is meaningful for you?
Good afternoon. I'm Wilmotine Lawson, and I enjoy being on Zoom every day. But right now, I'm having some trouble with my eyesight, so I've missed out a little bit. But I do meet every Thursdays and Saturday with a group called Naranon, and we talk about drug addiction in our family, and so we get a chance to express some of the feelings that's going on in the family or in myself. And I also am in a Bible study on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but I need to physically get out of the house more.
Yeah,
I do attend church twice a month, but I need to get out and be a part of a senior group. That's one of my concerns.
I love that you've already identified for yourself that you have significant, repeated, meaningful commitments to church, to the group you meet with in Naranon, etc. You have identified things you like to do, but you're realizing I'm even with all that, and I like Zoom, I'm a little isolated, so I need to be getting out more. So terrific. You identified your strengths, and you identified an area that you'd like to work on. I'd love to hear from any final folks.
Okay.
I will call on Miss Ann Dennis. I think your hand is up.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Sorry, I called. And thank you, Ann.
Okay.
What do you say?
Yeah, I'm muted. Yeah, I've got a church group, the Sick and Shut-in Seniors, and once a month, Father has us come, and we have a luncheon and a mass, and we talk about things and play games and stuff. And I've started back doing the chair exercises. I was doing exercises, and a therapist was coming, but I found that the program
Mhm.
that Alex and Tori have introduced us to, and the being on this program, the Wild Tech program, has helped me mentally. We discuss things, and it's group to have a difference of opinions, and
You're talking
you,
about mental stimulation,
yes,
having all these ideas and people adding comments, and you have your own thoughts and comments. It's getting your brain moving, right?
well, yeah, because it helps me because I was used to dealing with 25 little people every day because I was a school teacher. So
Mhm.
it had gotten to be kind of mind-boggling.
Mm.
When you talking to people that don't really speak your language, my aides are nice, but they don't have the same things going on
Mhm.
that because their country is different.
Right. Yeah, I
And
think you bring up a good point, which is that even if you have somebody around you, like an aide or someone who comes by and does some little light cleaning or drops off groceries, that's not necessarily going to reduce your social isolation. It's the quality of that interaction, right? If somebody
right,
comes by and remakes your bed and cleans out your shower, puts down a meal for you, hey, thanks, love it. But it doesn't actually make me feel like I'm connected to people. Now, I think we have one more person. I'd love them to take a minute and speak about their topic.
thank you,
Yeah,
Liz.
thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, actually have three hands left. So
Okay. Okay.
yes,
Everybody,
yes.
just 1 minute or less so you can hear the rest of my thoughts.
Thank you. Up next up is Ms. Doris. Yep, thank
Good
you.
afternoon, Liz and Alex. I'm going to add on to what Ann said. Since I've been in this program about a year, I try to go to many classes as I can because I enjoy it. It brings out a lot. Then I find myself working on the iPad, especially on playing games and stuff like that. Oh, that really makes me feel better. And just talking with the people that's in the program,
Right.
we have a lot of fun together. So those are things that make me
I,
feel.
yeah, I hear the organizers should be like listening and nodding because what I'm hearing repeatedly is that this is a part of all, for many people, of reducing their social isolation and improving their well-being.
Yeah. So I'm not going to talk long because I know you got other people, but I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you all. Next up is Brenda. Hello.
Hi, Liz. Uh,
Hi.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Liz, now I don't have any social isolation at all
Mm,
because my family is here every day
okay.
and I get to cook for them. We have fun together, we play games. I enjoy my grandchildren. I'm watching them grow up and I get on the iPad every day as well. And I mean, we have a good camaraderie with all the other folks, so we just have a great time. And
So,
also, my health insurance that I have, they
mhm.
are sticklers about your mental health. They check on me quite a bit. So, and I'm good. I'm really good.
So you are giving a great living example of living a life full of meaningful social activities. You know,
Yes.
grandchildren visiting, cooking for loved ones, sharing a meal, and even just being in an environment where, somebody's doing homework, somebody's making a snack, somebody's
Yes.
got to run and take a shower before they got to leave. This vibrancy can also feel really meaningful to people.
Yes.
Some people might
Absolutely.
feel overwhelming, but for some people, it feels really helpful.
I
So
love it.
I'm gonna just, if we went through our folks, I'm gonna go through and just the last.
We got one more. We got
one
one
more. Okay, great.
Thank you so much, Brenda, for
Thanks.
sharing.
Sure.
Yeah, last but certainly not least, again, thank you all, is Ms. Deborah. We have 1 minute to share. Again, what is meaningful for you?
I'm sorry, Alex. I must have accidentally raised my hand, but you guys have been amazing, and it gives me an opportunity to thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Deborah. We really appreciate that.
All right, so I'm just going to give a handful of tips about what easy things people can do, including yourself, that will increase your quality of life. So maintain a daily routine. Structure is really important to everybody. Generally speaking, getting up at the same time, getting out of bed at the same time, getting dressed for the day. Start your day, perhaps. Some people like to start it with some mindfulness, like Tori has introduced here. That can reduce stress and anxiety. It also has beneficial health effects. And we have evidence that people who meditate can improve their own cognitive functioning as an older adult. So there's meditation, stretching, yoga to start your day. Eat your breakfast, have your medication. And then at some point in your day, take advantage of an opportunity to do some regular exercise, at least 15 to 20 minutes a day. And a good way to make sure you do it is if you have a buddy, say, you know, I'm about to do my stretches, or I'm about to log on to that virtual class, or I'm about to do my sitting yoga moves. Or to have someone do it with you. You can have a virtual buddy. And also pets can really help if you have a dog that needs to be let out or even walked. And it also helps with reducing social isolation. You all know the benefits of not having to get out of the house, but being able to socialize, right? If you're not feeling great, or your ankle's swollen this morning, or you have a doctor's appointment later, and so you can only do virtual, how great. Make use of that. Remember that if you have a medical illness, you're a stroke survivor, if you have Parkinson's, if you're dealing with early cognitive decline, there are support groups, and finding other people can really help you feel better about your quality of life as you face your medical illness. I love that we came up with crafts, because creativity is something we don't talk about a lot, but organizing your activities, making a scrapbook, if you liked drawing before, or knitting, if you like building objects, ask for a Lego set. There's all different ways to be creative. And then, of course, we also mentioned staying active in your mind, right? Some people love chess, Sudoku, crosswords. Those are fine. Some people like doing it socially, like on their iPad, they can do words with friends or other games with other people. And then also reading. For people who enjoy reading, what I do suggest that folks limit is how long the TV is on. There's nothing wrong with, you know, by 2 o'clock, I've like done all my must-dos and I want to watch some TV and some news, and then I'll make my dinner. It's fine. Just be conscious of how much TV you're watching, and be really conscious about whether you actually need to see that local news on repeat. No problem with seeing the news. Stay up with the world, read the paper. But if you're having the news on all day, it is going to affect your mental health because of the kinds of stories that are being told and the worry it provokes in people. And if you do have a history previously of any mental health problems, you know, obviously got to tell your doctor, because they might help you identify that you may be experiencing some of those problems again. And remember that you can nurture yourself even when you don't have professional support right available. Do something that you really know is pleasurable, like calling someone who means something to you, or going out into the backyard and just listening to the birds, or picking up your cell phone and taking a photo of something great and text it to somebody. And then also, we know that not only choosing pleasurable activities can help reconnect you with what's important, even when you're managing mental health issues. Also, choosing an activity that involves some mastery, like you have to do a skill, can help turn your brain on in a different way. There are free apps to learn like 10 new words a day in a foreign language, or to do that crossword puzzle. Do those logic puzzles. Keeping your brain healthy is really important. And one of the most basic ways to keep your brain healthy is, of course, good nutrition and good sleep. We know that lots of seniors stay up late, they sleep in, maybe they sleep a lot during the day. That is going to be hard on your system. Having a regular schedule makes more sense. So this is all the didactic material I planned, but I want to address a very important question that was asked about how, when you have identified help, but that help is not quite right for you. And I think in particular, people feel like when you go to a therapist, you are a consumer. You have a right to ask questions. You can ask not personal questions like, do you have children? But you can ask general questions like, do you work on these kinds of issues? Have you ever worked with a senior before? Are you familiar with my illness that's affecting me? Are you someone who I can talk to about my family issues? And very soon, within that first visit, you'll get a sense if the person's going in the right direction, or at least providing some comfort to you. If after 6, 8 times, and you're just like, this isn't clicking, it's completely fine to say, thank you for your help. I think I actually need something different. It's okay to say that. As a therapist working in the field for 30 years, I would never take it personally. I am not a one-size-fits-all person, and you are not a one-size-fits-all person. You have to be comfortable with the support you're getting and the way it's being given. You have to feel respected culturally, spiritually. You have to feel known. Something about you feels like it's known by the other person, that they kind of can get something important about you. If you don't have that feeling, don't make mental health care like so many other things in your life that you just have to do. Pivot. Allow yourself to say, I know I'm exhausted. I know I already met with this person a bunch of times, but this just isn't a good fit. And you can say it that way too. Say, you are a really nice young person. You're a really nice person. You offered some good ideas. I think I'm going to go in a different direction. I think I'm going to, I think this has been helpful, and then just move on, right? That's okay. You can get a different therapist. You can find a different support group. So I think that's sort of the briefest way for me to comment on that, which is it's okay to have your needs change or to change your idea of what you want. Okay. All right. So I'll stop there, and maybe I can get an overview of like sort of what would be helpful at this point, or whether Alexander, you're just going to kind of close it out.
Well, thank you again so much for your information. It was very, I know, inspiring for all, and definitely reassured some things for myself as well. So, I mean, anyone at any age could really, really benefit from the information. So, of course, please share with friends and family. And I love all of your tips. We incorporated already a lot of those in our sessions. Like we've covered the reminders calendar app to have that daily routine. We do mindfulness Monday, exercise Fridays. We talked about, or have had a animal therapy group on talking about pets. So you talked about different apps like coloring book apps, Zen color apps, Sudoku, Trivial Pursuit, trivia, card games. We've read books on the iPad. We've talked about mental health apps and different things that you can do, different activities, different games, different things, just to make your life easier. So everything that you talked about definitely resonated with myself, and hopefully, the group as well. So thank you. Anne actually just said in the chat, please come back again.
I'd love to. You all are a great group, and happy. I sort of did a lot of didactic, but sometimes people really just want to kind of share, this is what's going on, and then have somebody give them some ideas or thoughts. So I totally get it, that there's a lot to talk about still.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. Tori, do you have any thoughts on maybe the biggest thing that you thought of Liz's session that really resonated with you today?
I'm just so pleased that everybody got to meet my closest friend, Liz, and I'm hoping you got something out of it. And yeah, I think that I think the idea of routine and really making sure you plan something every day that brings you like some meaning is very important. I've seen it either way. I've seen people who don't have routines, and you don't know what's going on, no meaning in your life. So I think that's really important. So thank you.
Yeah, routines that make sense for you, right? personalize them for you. If you're not a 7:30 a.m. person, fine. Your routine starts at 11 in the morning. It's your home, your life. You get to decide your time, but a routine is good for everybody.
Well, thank you so much. And it's such a coincidence again. Today is National Relaxation Day, you all. So I hope with everything that you all learned, really take, some time to reflect on today's presentation and how it can really help you in your mental health. And I'm sure with a lot of what Liz has talked about, you'll see a change. It may not happen overnight, but with a little bit of effort a day will really make a big difference. So again, make sure you all stay on to complete a poll to let us know how you felt about today's session. But let's give a big thank you to Liz and Tori for coming on and presenting their information today. Thank you. Hope to see you again. Have a
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Liz.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Come
Thank
again.
you.
Good,
Thank
excellent.
you, Miss
Very
Liz and Miss
much.
Tori.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Miss
Lord.
Tori.
Thank you. Thank you, Alice.
you. Really appreciate it, you all.
Bye-bye.
So much.
Bye.
Good session.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Come again. Please come
Thank you.
again.
Yeah, come again.
It says it's Department of